Do you ever feel like you're the only thing holding your 7 or 8 figure business together? Well, the truth is, your business doesn't have to rely on you, and you don't have to be pulled into every decision, put out every fire, and fix every problem. In fact, I've helped countless 6, 7, and 8 figure business owners install the systems they need to run their business in just 1 hour a week. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to guarantee your business grows without you, how to do it all without being dragged into every fire, decision, or problem, and how to run it all in just 1 hour a week. To start, let me show you the 2 ways you can run a 7 or 8 figure business, because only one of them is the right way to run a business, and this is non-negotiable if you want to run your business in just 1 hour a week. So imagine you have 2 business owners. The first one runs everything based on how things feel. Revenue looks fine, so he assumes the business is healthy and doing well, completely unaware that there's a fulfillment bottleneck quietly growing in the background that's going to eventually blow up once they reach a certain number of clients that their operations can't handle, which means their reputation tanks, sales bottleneck, they're stressed at home, the business eventually goes under, they then have to sell their house and they have to get a job. The second business owner looks at his data, sees a bottleneck in fulfillment, assigns someone to fix it, and gets it fixed before clients even notice, and then doubles his business over the next 1 to 2 years. Now, these could be the exact same business, but when ran in 2 different ways, you get 2 completely different outcomes because one is flying blind and the other sees objective reality. So how can you make sure you run your business the right way? Well, you need a way to see objective reality at any moment, and the simplest way to do that is through scorecards. So what you want to do is build 2 types of scorecards. First, you need a scorecard for every system in the business. So, one for marketing, one for sales, one for operations, one for finances, and so on. Build these scorecards in Google Sheets with 2 types of tabs. A monthly tab, which tracks the daily data of each month, and a yearly tab tracking the average or total of each metric from the month over the year. Then get whoever is in charge of that system. So for example, with your sales scorecard, you get your sales manager, as they're in charge of the sales system, to fill in the data at the end of each day for all the metrics you're tracking in the sales system. Then you want to build a business scorecard. This is your guiding light, as what it does is instead of tracking all the different metrics in each system, it only tracks the 3 most important metrics from each system. Again, you want a monthly tab so you can track the data for each month, but this time you want to track weekly data, not daily data. And then you want a yearly tab to track the average or totals of the metrics for each month across the year. With this business scorecard, you want to take 5 minutes every Sunday to open up all the system scorecards and then fill in the business scorecard metrics based on the data from the past week in the system level scorecards. And look, don't get me wrong, you could automate this somehow so that the business scorecard auto-populates, but I would highly recommend that you fill it in manually, because data means so much more and you understand it so much more when you fill it in compared to when you just read it. When you work with me at selfmastery.co, we actually give you the exact systems and protocols for not only growing your business based on the theory of constraints and using these scorecards to maximize employee performance and growth, but we also give you the templates for the scorecards so you don't have to build them. And in fact, if you click the link in the description below, you can get the business scorecard template for free. So, I'd recommend saving yourself a ton of work and time and just going and clicking it and getting it. This is always one of the most game-changing things that my clients experience. Just having systems in place to make database decisions, because for example, a past client of mine ran an 8-figure e-commerce brand, and he thought his problem was marketing. But once we installed his scorecards, we realized his real constraint was in order processing. They couldn't handle taking on more orders. So fixing that one bottleneck freed up so much of his time and actually allowed them to scale their marketing without seeing some catastrophic problem arise. So you can either run your business on feelings or on data, but data is actually what determines your growth pattern. And if you want to actually grow your business in 1 hour a week, you have to understand the only 3 ways your business can grow. So look at this graph on screen. Business A is a flat line that never really moves anywhere. Business B is volatile. There's peaks and periods of growth, but then big crashes, which means sure you're growing, but in an incredibly stressful and inconsistent way. Business C is a clean exponential curve that just consistently compounds and grows. Now, these 3 patterns or ways of growth are not random. They're the only 3 choices you have for how your company grows, and every business falls into one of them, but most business owners unknowingly pick the wrong one and makes their life and business so much harder and stressful than it needs to be. You see, business A exists and grows the way it does because the business owner is responsible for everything and does everything. Even if they have a team, they make every decision, they do basically every task, fix every problem, and so nothing compounds because it's one person's effort being spread too thin. Now, if you want to grow like business C, you first have to make the move from business A to business B. So to get to business B, you need to set 3 quarterly goals, or ROCs as we prefer to call them. and then give each person 1 to 3 personal rocks that directly help the achievement of the company's rocks. For example, maybe your bottleneck is in close rates. And so you set the quarterly goal of improving all close rates in your sales department to 20%. Well, your sales manager and your sales reps will then each have a goal to achieve that quarter, which will help the company achieve its goals. And their personal rocks are then broken down into specific actionable steps. Or maybe you want to improve client delivery time. So the company rock might be reducing turnaround time by 30%. The operations manager might then own building a faster workflow as a rock, and your fulfillment lead might own updating the SOPs and automations behind it. But the problem with business B is that things are volatile. And the reason for that is even though you're no longer the only person working to grow the company, you're the only person responsible. And so everything eventually falls back on your shoulders, be it problems or questions or decisions. And the only way to become business C, where you see exponential progress, is to give every single person in your business clear ownership of something that directly moves the business forward. The best way to do this is through systems mapping, where you map out every single process you do in the business and give someone the responsibility of that process. And this way, it's obvious who owns what and who reports to who. For example, a sales rep might own taking certain calls with a certain type of prospect, while the sales manager owns the entire sales system. So in this example, it's obvious who owns what and who reports to who. When someone is responsible for something, that means they're responsible for ensuring it gets done, for solving problems, tracking data, and updating SOPs for that thing they own. Now, with using this to run your business in 1 hour a week, what you have to understand is that if you own 8 processes that need done daily and each take 1 hour, that's 8 hours of work a day, which is not exactly 1 hour a week. But don't worry, you can fix it. And really, you only have 2 options to do that. You either eliminate the process, as in you stop doing it in the business, or you delegate the responsibility for that process to someone else. That is quite literally all you can do. You either eliminate or you delegate. The goal here, though, is that everything essential for the day-to-day running and growth of the business is delegated to someone else that is not you. Now, this is something I personally help clients do using the Mastery operating system. So if you want me to help you redesign your business to scale without you, click the first link in the description below to work with me. But when every essential part of the business has a clear owner, and every owner has specific outcomes that they're accountable and responsible for, the company finally shifts into that clean compounding curve of business C, which at this point the business doesn't only run without relying on you, but it can grow without relying on you. But of course, all of this only matters if it can be ran in 1 hour a week. So how do you actually run $1 million business in 1 hour a week? Well, let me show you. So imagine a single 60-minute block in your calendar, and inside that hour you review 3 things, and then everybody goes and does what they're meant to do, which, thanks to the rocks and responsibilities from earlier, is everything your business needs to run and to grow. And that's it. The entire business is compressed into 60 minutes. This is where the bulk of your time should go. You want to spend about 45 to 60 minutes each Monday essentially keeping everyone accountable and having a pulse on the business. Now, depending on your org structure, you can either have your whole team in the meeting if you're pretty flat, or if you're a bigger business, only do the meeting with your managers or leadership team, whatever you call them. And the entire purpose of this meeting is to go over your scorecard data, identify the constraint, the one thing that's holding the business back, come up with a solution, decide who is responsible for it. Then each week you just monitor the progress of that metric until the constraint is solved. And then also ensuring everyone is on track with their rocks so that everyone is doing the things required to grow the business each quarter. And then coming up with solutions and responsibilities for any problems that come up, whether it's around rocks or anything else in the business. When you use scorecards for objective decision making and self-accountability, when you use rocks to ensure everyone is rowing in the same direction, and responsibilities to ensure everyone knows who owns what part of the business that's required for it to run, then all of a sudden you can spend 1 hour a week keeping everyone on track. But to be honest, none of this works if you make the mistake that I used to make all the time. You see, I used to build systems, and then the moment someone asked me a question, I'd jump in and instantly break the entire thing, which is something I see with clients all the time. The founder answers one support email themselves, or jumps into one sales call, or helps fix one operational issue, and then suddenly the team starts relying on them for everything, and that's the whole system fucked. So look, none of this works if you give in to questions, problems, etc. when they're brought to you, or if you jump into every fire. You need to build the systems, then trust the systems, because quite simply, systems will not work if you do not give them a chance to work. And most business owners break their systems by jumping in before the system has time to run, and everyone has had time to get used to doing it that way. And look, you can use everything we've talked about in this video to work 1 hour a week using solely the meeting, or you can simply use it to make the business less reliant on you and then you can still work 20 or 40 hours a week specifically on the things you enjoy and that have massive leverage so that the business can grow as fast as possible. It is entirely up to you, because with this you can take on as much responsibility and tasks as you choose, or as little. But you still need the discipline to not go and break those boundaries and systems that you built. And if you really want this to work, it relies massively on you systemizing your business. So click this video on screen now, and I'll show you exactly how to do that.